Hey everyone, it's Andy here from savingtoinvest.com. And just want to give a quick update today on the ongoing delays and issues with California's PUA and PEUC federal unemployment program extensions. It's been a bit of a disaster, the rollout following the end of December extensions under the COVID relief bill. Those were the 11 extra weeks that were added to the original program weeks. But unfortunately, over 2 million Californians who were relying on some of these benefits have either had to experience long delays or still struggling to even get the extra 11 weeks. So I have a quick update on that today. I've also created a little table that summarizes where the things are at, and I'll show this in more detail down a few slides later. And as always, if you like what you hear here, please subscribe or hit the like button to keep more videos like this coming to you and keeps me going as well. So just quickly wanted to look at the update from the EDD, that's the department that manages the entire unemployment insurance benefits in California. They recently had this news release a few days ago, and they've acknowledged the ongoing issues, old systems, the surge of claimants, all those things have been acknowledged as the reason behind this. But what they're saying essentially here, and this is what you'll see I've summarized into the table to make it a bit easier for those to interpret, is that of the 1.5 million individuals who would have benefited from the extra 11 weeks, so we had the CARES Act, which went till the end of December 27th. And then after that, we had what they call the Continued Assistance Act, CAA, which was from the extra 11 weeks that was provided after that. There were slight differences in that extension weeks, which made the whole thing a bit more difficult to roll out. And people who were getting benefits when the CARES program expired on December 26th, and then on December 27th, they could keep certifying, but then to get the additional 11 weeks was challenging. So CAEDD estimates that 1.5 million people are getting PUA and PEUC. This does not include the 500,000 more probably getting regular UI, other unemployment benefit programs. But PUA and PEUC, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance for Contractors, Gig Workers, and PEUC, Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation for those who were getting regular UI. These people had the biggest challenges, and so most of December, January was just a struggle to get these the systems updated for them to claim these extra 11 weeks. At times, they were said they would be automatically added. Some people saw them added and saw them removed. Others couldn't even get them added, and it was impossible to get through to someone at the EDD, and it was a bit of a nightmare. But EDD have announced that to date, as I published this video mid-February, about 94% of Californians have now been extended on these extra 11 weeks for PUA and PEUC. So this is about 1.3 million claimants have been paid out about 1.2 billion. These are all federally funded benefits. So the Department of Labor sets the guidelines. So that's the EDD has said they've paid out, $1.2 billion worth of benefits. So that's about 5 weeks of benefits essentially that have been paid out, 6 weeks maybe for some people. This includes the $300 FPUC payment, which was a supplementary payment made to people who would qualify for PUA or PEUC. But phase two, so phase one was for about 94%. Phase two, which was about 6% or 185,000 people, they're still waiting. And so these are people with slightly more complicated cases. They may have crossed benefit years. They had some other complicated when their claims. These people have essentially had a gap and they haven't been able to get paid at all. And EDD just announced they'll be getting their programs updated to process these people by March 7th, 2021, which is another month almost from now. So that's really bad news for this group of people who have unfortunately been caught in this hole where most of the people have got through and being paid. But this 185,000, they'll just have to wait. And they'll have to wait for the EDD to notify them. There's nothing they can do. Some people have tried manually calling them, and at times I've heard stories that they can get their claims added manually. But this is, again, if you fall in this group, you have to actually wait for the programming updates to be done by the EDD. So even if it's manual or automated, they're not able to get their extra weeks added on. And so they think they can call manually and get through, but it's actually not helping them. So these two groups are sort of the big summary, but this does not explain everyone. There's also, unfortunately, and this is where unemployment becomes so complicated. Even if you qualify on the PUA, PUC, you think you're good, you start hitting some of the new requirements that came out as part of the Continued Assistance Act. And this has really hit some people and essentially stopping their benefits. So this act, there's two parts of it. One is they only allowed, so they said that if you were initially getting PUC, but you switched to PUA, which was 57 weeks in California, so those people have sort of expired. They said if you at any point in time got PUC, that means you probably qualify for regular UI, and then you move to PUC. And when you exhausted PUC, you move to PUA, which is a much longer program. PUC was 13 plus 7 extended weeks. But if you ever got PUC before, you had to then now go back and then say you move to PUA. But if you were in PUA, you have to then go back and reapply for regular UI and PUC, and your PUA claim would stop. So basically, people who were getting PUA, the extended week, suddenly found that their claims had stopped. So there were about 110,000 people in this bucket. They then have to go back and move to PUC. Now, this was meant to be done automatically, but it did not work out as well as expected. And so they saw a disruption in claims. And now the EDD has notified people, and they should have been told. But unfortunately, this again, like all the other rollouts have been a nightmare because of the systems. EDD is sending claimant notices. So if you were in this bucket and suddenly you saw your claim stop, this was probably one of the reasons. The other reason is fraud, which I'll get to shortly. The fraud has also meant a lot of people have to recertify or have had their benefits stop. But this group of 110,000 people was truly because of the new legislation that had to make people move from back to PUC if they were getting it before, even though they're on PUA and getting paid normally right now. So I know there was a lot I went through there, and I went through it pretty quickly, and I'll post the links below to the EDD site where you can read that news release. But I've tried to use this table to summarize where things are at right now. Now, this is updating, and I'll have a dedicated California UI page that I'm tracking for all these updates and stories from people and comments, because there are many unique situations that cannot be captured in a video or in these scenarios. But what this is trying to show you is on top, you're seeing the claimant categories. And so this is generally how these programs were rolled out in many states to people, where it was based on, the status of the claimant, if they had a claim, or if they were exhausted their benefits, or if they're new claimants. And this is going horizontally, you'll see the two big programs, PUA and PEUC, right, for the 11-week extension. I'm not talking about the original CARES Act, which was 39 plus 7 weeks in California. I'm talking specifically about the 11-week extension here. So as you can see here, regular claimants who were getting UI and extended state benefits before December 26th, they can keep going, and they were able to certify. They really saw no disruption, and they also got the $300 of extra FPUC payment that was provided as part of the Continued Assistance Act. For those who had exhausted their regular UI, you could go into PUC. That's the bottom left thing here. I'm putting my cursor here. You can see what I'm talking about here. After they exhausted the UI, they could get the extra 11 weeks, and that was a pretty automated process. They may have to file an updated claim or provide some more documentation, but that was pretty automated. The one wrinkle is that if they were getting extended benefits before December 27th, they can exhaust those. But what happens is after December 27th, they need to use up regular UI, then go to PEUC, and then they can get the extended benefits. A slightly different sequence of orders. So after December 27th, it's use up regular UI, then go to PUC, and then you can get your extended benefits if the state is offering it, subject to high unemployment rates. And California currently does have the extended benefit program in place. So the second column, which is those with active claims remaining from the CARES program, this is as of December 27th, they had active benefits. This is what I discussed before. It was being rolled out in 2 phases, and it's really the same for both if you've exhausted benefits or an active claim. This was actually done for both groups there. So you can see the same rules here. So the phase 1, that was the 94% of people, they can claim the extra weeks now. In a lot of cases, this was manually added. For some people who had issues getting these added, whether it was, especially if it was PUA, they needed to provide more wage documentation, or they didn't respond to EDD notices, they were getting the things online, they were not getting it online. They may have had some hold up because they have to provide additional wage evidence. So this is where they've had to call and someone can manually add those 11 weeks. And so but they should be available now. They can claim these extra 11 weeks now, and they're already getting paid for it. They're in week 4, and if they're getting those extra weeks, they also get the $300 FPUC. So this is the same for PUC, where they can also get phase 1 and phase 2 have basically been divided the same way for PUA. They rolled it out in the same manner. They can also claim the extra weeks as well. Just one thing to note is phase 2, which is coming now for March 7th, PUC and PUA. A lot of people try to call up and get these extra 11 weeks added if they happen to fall into this, and you don't know if you fall into this. The only way you really will know is if you're not seeing your 11 weeks. You sometimes will call EDD. If you're lucky enough to get through and you can't be added, you're likely in the 6% phase 2 group. And those phase 1 people can be added, and you'll get paid. The good news is you will get retroactively paid for all the weeks that you are eligible, including the $300 payment. So I know it's stressful for a lot of people who need this money to pay bills, put food on the table for their families, but you will be retroactively caught up for that. The one point I did note, as I mentioned earlier, you may have also seen a stoppage in payment if you're in PUA group. If you were getting PUC in the past and then you had moved to a PUA program, what's happening there? The EDD, per the law, it's not the EDD's fault. They're having to stop those PUA payments, check eligibility for PUC, and then they have to make you move to the PUC, which at times requires you to either file a new claim or follow some instructions for the EDD to get that done. New claimants can all get can now also claim the extra weeks, and they're considered part of phase one. There is new documentation requirements, and in some cases, you obviously have to put a new claim in if you're a new thing there. But you'll have to do the regular UI check, and then if you don't qualify for regular UI, you get PUA as well. So there is a process there. It's on the EDD side for filing a new claim. It's pretty straightforward. But again, 94% of people should be able to get the extended 11 weeks. There is this group of people who are still struggling to get it. It's 6% is what they're saying phase two, but I think it's probably close to 10 to 15% are really having issues with their claim and getting the extra 11 weeks. And the other big reason that the people have seen a suspension of claims, and this is probably the hardest one because it's with Bank of America that actually makes the payments that originally back in around New Year's, that stopped almost 1.4 million people. EDD just stopped it because of the amount of fraud that was happening with Bank of America, and there was no notice. They just essentially stopped the claims. They restored that. People had to go back and validate. But the same thing has happened right now where there's still almost 300 and there was almost 1.1 million claims, but then there's still people today as of February 15th that have not validated the claims. So a lot of people have stopped getting payments because the claims are not validated. Now, if they're fraudulent, they should have stopped. That's how it was intended. But unfortunately, this got a lot of eligible people over there. So if you're eligible, if you are supposed to get a claim and you haven't got it, please check your inbox, check online, make sure you haven't got any text messages that you have to go and do some additional identity verification. Once you do this, your claim should be restored and you'll get paid retroactively for any existing claims. EDD is saying here, as you can see here, about 100,000 individuals are impacted by this. So it's not that many compared to the 1.4 million originally left. They've hired a company called Accenture, which is a big consulting company, to try and help them go through fraud. And I think once they can get phase two done, EDD will get through most of the backlog of claims that were held up due to fraud. But this is probably going to be the biggest ongoing issue that's happening. Even though EDD said it's coming down, there's a lot of fraud in the system, and this ID.me process is going to help them to do that, but it's still a slow process. And a lot of people who are not familiar with online technology are victims to a lot of these phishing scams. So just be careful with online security. So hopefully this helped to give you a little bit of update. I know a lot of people are frustrated. I have some resource pages down here. You can leave questions or ask questions. I'll try and help you if I have there. There's a lot of good resources online, some good videos from other YouTubers that I've put on EDD and all that kind of stuff. I'll put links to that over there as well. But hopefully, I'm hoping in the next few weeks that everyone should get paid what they get paid and they'll be retroactively caught up with any missed payments. Thanks. Bye.